Hi, my name is Sydney, and the title of my article was Bacillus thuringiensis. The most important idea or concept from that article was that BT, or Bacillus thuringiensis, is a good thing because it makes proteins that are toxic to insects but not to humans, because the toxins only target insect larvae and cannot be activated in the human body, therefore not being harmful to humans, which is obviously good. And the paper of my group member that I believed was synergistic with mine was titled Why We Will Need Genetically Modified Foods. And I think that a concept that was synergistic with my article as well was the use of BT in crops. And that article talks about how the majority of all corn, soybean, and cotton that have been planted and engineered with BT gene to ward off insects, and how BT cotton was approved over a decade ago in India and now represents 96% of cotton grown in the country.
My name is Mariel. The paper I chose was Transgenics, a new breed from the Nature Journal. The most important idea I got from that paper about GM plants in the food system was the usages of GMO that they've been primarily shaped for farmers and industry and not the average consumer. The paper that was most synergistic with mine was In a Grain of Golden Rice, A World of Controversy over GMO Foods from NPR, because it discussed the nutritional benefits provided to people, which will help shy away from using GMOs solely for agricultural purposes and allow GMOs to enter a new frontier of consumer acceptance.
Hi, my name is Rosalie, and the story I chose was National Public Radio's story called In a Grain of Golden Rice, A World of Controversy over GMO Foods. And the most important idea that I got from the story about GM plants in the food system was the idea that genetically modified crops have great potential to alleviate nutrient or micronutrient deficiencies and world hunger in impoverished areas. The paper that I thought was most synergistic with mine was called Why We Will Need Genetically Modified Food by the MIT Technology Review. I found this paper to be synergistic because it addressed how genetically modified crops can help the world's growing population to supply a sufficient amount of food that will have to be grown under the newfound conditions that are brought on by climate change.
Hi, my name is Kavelyn, and I read an article called Genetic Modification Trails Conventional Breeding by Far by the Institute for Science in Society. This article's main assertion is that genetically modified crops are not keeping up with contemporary agricultural issues, such as the need for drought resistance and high-yielding crops. This article states that such needed traits have already been bred into a number of corn and wheat varieties through conventional breeding practices. I felt this article was synergistic with an article called Why We Will Need Genetically Modified Foods by MIT, because it actually had an opposing opinion. Why We Will Need Genetically Modified Foods asserts that we actually do need genetically modified food crops in order to keep up with the demand for food from a growing human population and the environmental issues that will come with increasing global temperatures.
Hi, my name is Elena, and one of my articles detailed how to make a transgenic plant, and this basically just gave an overview of how to engineer a plant by inserting a new gene. And the main steps involved isolating a gene, cloning it, and inserting it into a plant using a couple different methods. And after the gene is inserted, the embryo is tested in a controlled environment to evaluate the success of the gene. And if it is successful, then they continue breeding it. And I thought it was synergistic to another article about Roundup Ready resistant plants, because it gave a good example of how a successful transgenic plant is used. And the plants that have been modified to resist Roundup Ready have been modified basically to resist glyphosate, which is a non-selective herbicide. Basically that means it kills everything it comes in contact with. And within the plant, the EPSPS enzyme has been modified, so normally it catalyzes a reaction in the cell, but when it's exposed to Roundup, it just functions normally and the plant is not affected. And this is basically a good example of how a gene has been modified to resist or respond differently than it normally would in the presence of an herbicide.